You're tuned into the VSX Digital Sports Network.
Yo, you in the mix. World's finest, man.
You are rocking with the hottest. Put your hands up for the boss. The Mix Master is live. Get ready.
You're listening to the boss of the big ball.
Always spitting that explosive fire.
More fire, more heat.
JBTHETICKET. Vegas Scoreboard Express.
That's right, guys. Talking a little bit of college football, but not the way you think. JB the Ticket, Vegas Scoreboard Express. I'm back at you live, VSX Digital Studios. Follow me on Instagram at JB the Ticket. Go to my website, VegasScoreboardExpress.com. Doing a little conversation piece here with my boy Lenwood, Hard Rock Hamilton, and Ron Third Down Bets. A little bit of bread and circus, guys. Welcome back to the show. How you doing?
Hey. Hey.
Oh, yeah.
What's
now
up,
we're not.
JB?
That's what I'm talking about. We don't got to worry about stats. We don't got to worry about rotation numbers. We just got to worry about straight grease. And again, follow Ron on Instagram at RaiderHawk1. Follow Lenwood at Lenwood.Hamilton. So we were just talking about this, the NIL in college football. What happened? Because I have a question for you, and I know you can't answer it. Who are the starting quarterbacks for the top 25 college football teams? I'll wait. Go ahead. You can't figure it out. No, I don't care. This NIL thing is going to be the death knell of college sports as we knew it. Because now this was the big issue. You're not playing the players. We're not getting any money. We're starving. We're winning your national championships and all this jazz. But I always tell people, when it comes to money in sports, it's not a razor blade. It's a double-edged sword. When you get on the other side, you're going to get cut too. No one, and I mean no one at the major networks are talking about these players. I don't know who any of them are. Nothing. I remember being spoon-fed Trevor Lawrence stories ad nauseum for an entire COVID season, okay? I don't know if you guys remember that. But they spoon-fed us, this kid, and now he's in the NFL, staking it up down in Jacksonville. But from a college perspective, we are in week 0. There was a huge game over in Dublin, Ireland, Northwestern and Nebraska. Northwestern pulled that out as a money line dog. Always glad when you can make something like that happen. I have no idea who any of these kids are who won the game. I haven't seen them on sports shows. I haven't seen them doing any press. I think it has everything to do with the NIL. These schools, these conferences are evil little buggers. They're not going to let these kids get rich now. Now that they can get rich, they're not going to let them get rich. They're not going to build their name up. They're going to talk about the school and the coach and who won, and that's it. And I think even sports betting has a little something to do with that because, again, point-shaving scandals back in the day, all of those things are now free-reign game. Not saying you want a point shave, but I'm saying sports betting, paying the players, no longer under the table, people. This is the real deal. So, Lenwood, I'll start with you because we were talking about this earlier. Remember, the NIL deals were supposed to be a way for these players to make money off of their name, image, and likeness. But if you don't know who these players are, and the marketing machine that was the NCAA and the private universities and public universities that made up the conferences for which these young women and men played for, these young athletes, are not going to put that marketing dollar behind them, how are these kids going to live up to these deals that they're signing, pre-snap, pre-pitch, pre-tip-off? Because if no one knows who you are, and even if you're doing great things on the field, no one hears about it, how's that valuable? Lenwood, go ahead.
Well, I'm going to ask you that question. I mean, this NIL, they had Saban on there talking about it, and he started at the high school level. He said he's all for, the parents making sure that their kids are protected and they're getting paid for their likeness. But he said that should not be a final decision on what university you want to go to because of the NIL. Why? Why not? It's a shame because it seems like to me that the minute that these kids can find a way to make some money off of, because you figure if a kid plays a whole high school season, his last season, and he's in the Big 33. Like in Pennsylvania, we got the Big 33. And he gets hurt in that final game, they still might get a scholarship, you know. But if they don't get it, most of the schools will say, oh, we don't want him now because he got hurt. You know, I had an opportunity to play in the Big 33, but the NIL wasn't there. But you know why I didn't play? Because I didn't have a home to go back to. And a lot of guys are not friends with me now because I didn't have a home to go to because I grew up in 11 different youth organizations, children's homes. And so when my football was over, I had no place to go. So I wasn't going to play in the Big 33 and possibly get hurt and not be able to fulfill my scholarship offer to North Carolina State. But now, I mean, if these guys are offering these kids some type of financial gain and them playing their sports, I'm all for it, man, because look at what's happening. They're not pushing these guys. They don't want the name to be out there. They don't want these kids getting paid. They may say, yeah, it's cool, but they don't want these kids getting paid. But that's motivation.
I agree. And that's the reason why the kids were taking the money before. Let's go back a couple of years ago in a different sport, and Ron, I'll touch on this with you. Remember the big scandal? Pac-12, University of Arizona basketball team, men's basketball team, getting sanctioned by the NCAA for a mediocre player who turned out to be pretty mediocre. I don't even know if he made the pros. But this whole shenanigan about bringing in all these investigators, you're on probation and all this was all about exactly the legislation that was passed to allow these kids to do it. It was paying the players for their name, image, and likeness. It wasn't making them a pro. It was like, you look at a guy like Rafer Alston, a.k.a. Skip to My Lou. Shout out 30 for 30. I was just watching that. AM1. I grew up in that era. And I remember that he was already in the NBA, and we were watching tapes. That AM1 tape, we had already saw him do that live a decade ago. But when that tape hit, it was like, yo, who is this guy? They're like, oh, that's Skip. He's in the league now. They're like, oh, this is how he plays. Long story short, he made and won money, and street ball players made and won money off of their name, image, and likeness. These were true street ball players. Half man, half amazing. Hot sauce. You have my boy A.O., you know. These guys were featured on the And1 mixtape for their names, image, and likeness because they weren't professionals. So you knew their name. If you didn't, you knew their image and his likeness. And when the And1 mixtape came around for the second time, they did do the right thing. And see, that was the difference. And I'm trying to create this avenue for you to understand that street ballers had the right to earn income off of their name, image, and likeness back then. The And1 mixtape tour became a big thing. These were guys, former college washouts, former pro washouts, but they used their name, that street ball name, that image, whether they were flying high, shooting threes, dunking, crossing over, whatever it was, the dribbling, whatever, and that likeness. These guys were in video games. Street ball players had more rights to earn income than NCAA players up until this point. But the NCAA understood that the top players, another ESPN 30 for 30, if you want to watch it, bring it back to your memory about college football, what we're talking about now, the Pony Express. In 1983, the death sentence for SMU. You guys remember that in Lenwood. That was your era. So I want to talk to you a little bit about that. How are these schools now going to take these kids who now have an opportunity to earn money, and while the opportunity may be there, they stifle it by not putting their marketing dollars behind the individual star student athlete for that team that we know is going to put that team over the hump as they should. And the part two of that question is, do you think it's affecting performance on the field? Because I would like to say yes. You take a kid who's from a non-impoverished background, pay him money to be a nondescript star, he might just do that. He might just fail his way up. But I know back in the day when these kids were coming from a little bit less privileged backgrounds and were getting in trouble for taking a few dollars, not these $1 million NIL deals they're signing now, do you think that it is fair that the schools now are pulling back those marketing dollars? And ultimately, do you think it's going to hurt the schools because the kids ain't going to want to play that hard if they can't become superstars and make money at the same time? It's like pick one, stardom or money. Go ahead.
Hey, well, it's perfect examples. It's Patrick Ewing. Patrick Ewing made the school $5 million when he played. Now that ain't a lot of money, but back then it was. You know, and the thing I'm saying is that guess what? Yeah, it's going to affect their play. You know what? If you know, back in the day, they had the alumni that would let you use their car, or the alumni that would take you out to eat when I was at state. Now, they're paying these kids. They can drive around in their nice cars. You don't think that – it's just like the coach used to tell us. If you dress good, you look good, you're going to play good. You dress like a bum, you don't look good, you ain't going to play good. And, yes, that should be a motivating factor because they're making money off of you. So why not pay these kids to perform? And why are you cutting back on putting this kid out there? He's making you money. Why? Because you can't make it now? That's selfish, man. And that's why a lot of these kids are not going to these universities. You know what I mean? Because they're hit to it now.
Now, Ron, I want you to weigh in on this because, again, you're listening to JB the Ticket, Vegas Scoreboard Express. Vegas Scoreboard Express conversation series, Bread and Circus, talking about these NIL deals and the ghost town that has been college football on the major sports network. It's been all NFL. It's been all pro football. So, Ron, do you think that now that the college players, especially college football players, are going to see themselves more as influencers, trying to sell links, trying to sell deals, whatever it may be, than college stars? Because I'm going to ask you that and frame the question this way. You take a guy like Trevor Lawrence, who literally is playing for his future. He's getting no money now, legitimately, whatever. And he went to Clemson and he did what he did at Clemson for no money. Do you think now if a kid comes in and he's already got $1 million NIL deal and he realizes, okay, the school ain't going to sell my jersey, but I'm kind of handsome, girls like me, I'm just going to go on Instagram every day after practice. In my opinion, that's taking a kid out of the gym. That's taking a kid out of the field, off the court. That's taking kids and young men and women out of the proper sport to master the craft, to become professional, or at least to become proficient, to graduate on that full ride, that scholarship. Do you think that now coaches, there's going to be backlash? Because I remember Dabo Swinney said, head coach of Clemson, the day they pay these kids is the day that I ain't going to have the passion for it no more. And guess what? We haven't heard a peep from Clemson. I haven't heard or seen ACC Media Day. I saw kids on Media Day who were third string at any school. And I'm like, well, who's the starting quarterback? Nah, they got some academic All-American up here. Not to knock the academic All-Americans, keeping the team eligible, but I know what the schools are doing. Ron, what say ye?
I think they're ruining the sport. I really do. I couldn't agree with you more, JB. They're taking away that burning desire. That's what was good about college football. You had those kids every Saturday, and you saw the fire in their eyes. They knew they wanted to get to that next level. That's what it was all about. I think now it's going to be about, what can I get paid? What can I make in case I don't make it to the next level? I think you're just destroying the whole foundation of it. I mean, college football was just fire. I mean, the environment with the band, I mean, everything is just changing, and it's not changing for the better. Now the universities, they're upset that they have to let them get paid. They're really upset about that. So now what do they do next? They're going to find a way to regulate it again. They're going to pick and choose what happens. You'll see NIL departments pop up soon. They're already starting at, different companies and stuff. And they just need to leave these kids alone, number one.
No, can I intervene for
Go
1
ahead.
second?
Go ahead,
Let me
go
tell
ahead.
you something. Let me tell you something. Okay, so it's cool to pay a coach that just came out of grad school that the head coach likes him and say, well, okay, I'm gonna give you $200,000, $400,000. Now it's like I'm gonna give you $2 million a year to coach up under me, but the kids get nothing. If it wasn't for the alumni, half those football players that they bring in and basketball players that they bring in and divers and swimmers that they bring in, they don't come from rich families. We were starving. We couldn't even go get anything to eat when you work. Okay, you feed us 3 squares a day, and if you could, you would bring some food up to your room to eat. But to go in your pocket to say, okay, I want to go out and eat something, I want to go do this, I want to go do that, it's modern day. You got to leave a lot of discretion up to those kids. You know what I'm saying? They make the wrong decisions. They know they're screwing up a lot for themselves. But if they make it through this thing that they call 4 years of college or 2 years of college and they get to the next level, they're going to make way more than what they made in college. And it's definitely a motivating thing. You're paying a coach and don't know nothing about public relations, don't know how to relate to none of these kids. How about the kids that come from the hood? The kids that come from the hood. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it's
some grease
it's
right
unfair.
there. It really is, Lenwood. And again, thank you so much for your input on that. Again, Lenwood was a top high school football player back in the late 70s, early 80s, when played at NC State and Southern University after that, and then on to CFL and NFL for a stint. But, Ron, going back to you, I do see your side of the argument here because I, as a fan of college sports, why isn't this working? For years, we can't pay the athletes. They're amateurs. It'll ruin the integrity of the sport. I think what these guys have done now is created a self-fulfilling prophecy within that because name, image, and likeness creates ego. Okay, follow where I'm going here, Ron and Lenwood, and all you listeners out there. It creates a certain level of ego, and when you bring in a college kid and he's already the man, we all know what happens to us in college. I know what happened to me. Oh, my team went to the state finals in New York. I went to college. It got smashed my first day in practice. I'm like, yo, these dudes, this is D1. Whoa. And I'm smashing, and I don't know. And then guys come up to me, like, yo, man, great practice. You went hard. And I'm like, for real? You scared of me? You know what I mean? So, in my opinion, it takes away from some of that realness. And then you got to also, Lenwood, you're talking about these coaches getting paid. Imagine a coach, a college football coach is maybe second only to a drill sergeant for loud bombassery and just straight nastiness, okay? But it's to make you better. But the reality is most of these players and most of these coaches were always on an uneven playing field where the coach had the key to something that each one of those 65-man player on that college football roster wanted, a key to graduation or an opportunity to play at the next level. And then for his top players, we've seen it. Remember that movie, The Program? We've seen it. Top player pissed coach off. Lenwood, you may have lived it. Next thing you know, boom, he ain't going to draft camp that day. Oh, you missed pro day today. You got to take this final. You missing pro. Little things happen. Imagine now you got a coach who's making $5 million a year or whatever, and his new freshman quarterback is coming in making 20% of his salary. He's making $1 million, and he pulls up in a brand new Tesla and all that. I mean, come on, man. Do you think that these coaches are going to actually build these kids' brand and make them bigger than the coach and the only guy on the team who was normally getting paid? I myself, personally, I don't think so. I mean, you're talking about the most egotistical people on the earth outside of military drill sergeants. College football coaches, college basketball coaches, if they have a player on their team who is making more money than them, I guarantee you that player will never see the court, the field, anything.
And but JB, that's the wrong attitude that they should take. They need an attitude adjustment. Because I'm gonna tell you something. If you're working for me, coming in, I'm coaching you or whatever, and you got a good attitude, and you do things the right way, the more money you make, the more money I'm gonna make. The better you look, the better I'm gonna look.
Yeah, Lenwood, but I got to tell you something. Who's the top 5 quarterbacks off the top of your head, college football this year? Have you seen any articles? You guys are in L.A. Who's the starting quarterback for USC this year?
Caleb Williams.
Okay, we're going to give put it this way. I don't know that, and I can tell you 10 years ago, we all knew. I lived in New York. I knew it was Matt Leinart. I lived in New York City, almost 20 years ago. I lived in New York. I knew it was Matt Leinart. I knew it was John David Booty. I knew it was Mark Sanchez. I knew who it was. Yeah. I knew it was Matt Barkley. Okay. I knew it was Mitch Mustaine. I'm naming every single quarterback. Now, I'm going decades now. Don't make JB open up. Sam Darnold. I can keep going. You know who else even played for these guys? A lot of people don't even know. He played behind Tom Brady for a little bit. Another USC guy. He never even got off the bench.
Matt Cassell.
There you go, Matt Castle.
Yep.
Because he's not related to Sam Cassell. I just had to let everybody know that. I just named you 20 years of starting quarterbacks for USC. But that was pre-NIL.
And we can't name it.
That was pre-NIL.
I just told you.
I have
I
no
just told you.
freaking clue who these people are. I'm just keeping it real.
I just told you the coaches need an attitude adjustment.
The attitude adjustment ain't going to be there, Lenwood. I'm telling you, these coaches, they see the elephant in the room. They know.
Then who they going to coach then? I bet you in 5 to 10 years, the whole thing that you're talking about right now will be completely reversed. It'll be a new type of attitude. They
would
will
hope
love
so.
these kids.
Okay, I'll take you up on that, and let me tell you why, because we talked about that a little bit. It ain't the same kid. Or for all of you English majors out there, these are not the same children that they are recruiting. Okay? These are upper middle crust kids. Now, don't get it twisted. College sports has always had upper middle crust. There's something called the Ivy League, which is a weighted average across the rest of the NCAA, which brings that weighted average up, income and talent level, and they're Division I. But outside of that, the athlete of recent memory, and I started seeing this back in the mid-2000s, like 2005 on up. These kids were coming out of inner city schools. Now they're coming out of private schools. Here in Las Vegas, I'm telling you, the 3 schools everybody talks about are Faith Lutheran, Liberty, which is like kind of a richer high school, and Bishop Gorman. That's it. And there's 10 other high schools here in town. High school football in the state of Nevada, good grassroots. Couldn't pick a kid. Have no idea. Because they know this kid becomes a star in high school, you know. He's going to get an NIL deal. We don't want that. I'm telling you right now, they may in 10 years let this stuff fly. But I'm going to tell you why I know that the NIL is going to become one of those things that kids aren't going to start dealing with anymore. These kids are going to start shunning it. Let me tell you why. The schools are going to make it so pointless. Sign that deal. They're going to know, sign that deal, you'll never play. I'm telling you right now, it's going to be an unwritten rule, man. And I know that sounds really bad. I'm telling you, I know that sounds really bad, but I'm just dropping the bomb on you, letting you know. If I just named you starting quarterbacks for USC for the last 20 years and cannot name you who is starting without the aid of Ron, who is it this year?
Caleb Williams from Oklahoma. He transferred. He was Oklahoma starter last year.
A transfer. Even worse. Even worse.
Lincoln Riley.
Real bad.
I mean, this is what I'm telling you. It used to be the top local high school kid. They made a name, USA Today. You saw them everywhere. The day the NIL deal legislation passed, you don't see it. Same thing with sports betting. As soon as sports betting legislation passed, all the guys who had built sports betting, who had been a name in sports betting for the last 30, 40 years, they all got wiped out. And they brought in all these pretty faces and all these little abs and all this stuff. It's doing nothing for the game. It's doing nothing for the sport. It's confusing people. It's wasting people's time. And these NIL deals, I'm telling you right now, you sign it, no one's going to see you. You're talking to Pac-12, UCLA, USC moving to the Big Ten. Why? Let me tell you why. Oh, you're a big-time California star. You signed with a California car dealership. You're playing half your season in the cold Midwest where nobody knows you. JB the Ticket, Vegas Scoreboard Express, talking to my main man, Ron, Third Down Bets. Follow him on Instagram at RaiderHawk1 and Lenwood, Hard Rock Defender of the Youth Hamilton. I know you're saying, Lenwood, they got to change their attitude, but how can they? There's money involved. There's ego involved. I can't tell you one college starter. You're telling me, Ron, on the other side, that these college players are starting to follow coaches. Oh, if the coach transfers or gets a job at a new school, his quarterback is coming with him. We knew that happened back in the day, but do you honestly think that a Lincoln Riley is going to take a $5 million NFT NIL kid with him if he goes to, freaking Boise State or something in 10 years? No. Because, again, the power of the coach is all we see. Who did you mention to me, Lenwood? Nick Saban. Who have we been talking about on the internet the last 4 or 5 months? Deion Sanders. Who did you name right off the top, Ron? Lincoln Riley. The schools are going to dial it in on that. You're going to know our name. You're going to know our mascot. You're going to know our coach. Our starting quarterback, you got to watch the game to know who he is. And then after the game is over, you're going to have to search deep and far into his Instagram to follow and hear anything he says, because he ain't influencing nothing. The days of Christian Laettners is over. The days of the Trevor Lawrences is over. Okay? The days of the NBA, Zion Williamson blowing out the shoe, becoming the main attraction and living up to none of it, it's over. These kids taking the money now, that's the day you get paid. There is no incentive for that college coach, that college coordinator to develop your skills so he can move up to the next level. Because he's like, this kid just pulled up in a $50,000 Hummer. It's legal now. I'm making that $200,000 that Lenwood mentioned that I'm getting from this head coach, but I got $180,000 in student loan debt, maybe $160,000. Biden just took a couple dollars off. But at the end of the day, these coaches are going to resent that. And when there's that type of resentment, and you've already heard these type of statements from Dabo Swinney and Clemson, teams breaking up conferences again to switch around to go to other conferences to try to increase exposure. That's not what it's about. It's about taking kids who already most people feel are super duper entitled anyway, and taking that entitlement back. It's about a power shift. It's about taking something that should be much beneficial to these kids and making it that poison pill. Remember, this happened in college basketball. Remember? You signed that college basketball scholarship. You don't play in the league this year. You guys forgot about that, huh? Remember that, Ron? Remember a couple years back, all these guys?
I do remember that.
And then it's the one and done rule. College said, you GMs aren't going to go to LeBron James and tell him that he can't play in college because you guys will never pick him if he gets hurt or he wastes his talent. You can't do that no more. We need him for 1 year. So I've already seen this happen. Kids in the inner city, kids in the rural America figure out a way to put some cash in their pocket with their athletic ability. And then here comes the man with his finger like, no. I still need my cut to be bigger than your cut.
That's all about control, JB. They want to keep control.
That's what I'm talking about. My man Ron, third down, best bets. When I come back, we're going to talk a little bit more about this NIL deal. JB the Ticket, Bread and Circus, Vegas Scoreboard Express. I'm telling you guys right now, college football is going to be hard to handicap. Your pockets might end up handicapped, but the reality is these players that are making these big deals and these big endorsement deals are getting into a whole world of things that they don't know about. And I'm going to talk about it a little bit more when I get back. Vegas Scoreboard Express. Get the money.
You're listening to the boss of the big ball, JBTHETICKET.
I'm stuck in a jam and need cash right away. Don't worry. Go Moneyline with MoneyGram. With MoneyGram, money transfers are easy, reliable, and fast. No fee if you send cash online. So don't let your fam be broke this season. Go Moneyline with MoneyGram.